Valve might be releasing a new home console, Silksong has made many an indie game jump ship out of this week, and some updates about the Nintendo Switch 2 and game preservation. Hello, don't adjust your screens. Ole Gamer Joe hasn't just turned female and British, it's me, Ashton. I'm covering this week's indie update while Joe is moving house, which we wish him lots of luck for. It's never fun. First thing on this week's indie update that I want to tell you about is that Valve might be releasing a new home console. I say might because this is just a leak. We have to take leaks with a pinch of salt. We never know if it's quite correct. But this is looking very exciting. Valve Freeman, as they are calling it, is a potential home console that's more powerful than the Steam Deck and just might release with a new Steam controller as well. If you had a Steam Link way back when, you might be familiar with Valve's foray into the home gaming market. The Steam Deck was an absolute success, but has recently been outshone a little bit power-wise by the Switch 2, so it makes complete sense for them to jump into the home gaming market. It will be interesting to see if this shakes things up with PlayStation at all, with Xbox potentially leaving the console market. So maybe this console will push Sony to try a bit harder and maybe change some of their slightly terrible business practices. We will have to see if this ever turns out to be real or not, but I personally am hoping that it will be. Now, I don't know if you've heard, but Silksong is launching this week, which has meant some other games aren't anymore. Silksong was announced to be releasing this week last week at Gamescom, a sort of shadow drop, if you will, and a few indie developers have decided not to launch their games this week anymore. Devolver Digital have chosen to release Baby Steps, their upcoming quirky game, on September 23rd instead of its normal release date being this week, and Wisebird have delayed Demon School all the way to November 19th instead of releasing it on September 3rd. Wisebird have been very vocal about why they are delaying it, citing that it is the very short notice of Silksong's release that is making them push it back, though I do have questions given they've pushed it back all the way to November when some other games have only shifted out of this week. Devolver Digital did also release a funny little video for Baby Steps showing our main man walking along a Hollow Knight, so I'm glad they found some joy and levity in this situation. It's not ideal that games are being pushed out of next week by such a big release, but there is still lots launching. So check out the Dream Drop on Monday to find out what you can play instead of Silksong if you want something different. A couple of other smaller stories now. Atari have purchased 5 of Ubisoft's IPs. I don't know what they're going to do with them yet, but I'm excited to find out. If you want to know which 5, it is Cold Fear, I Am Alive, Child of Eden, Grow Home, and Grow Up. Lots of interesting indies hopefully coming out of Atari, who also do have a few games launching next week as well. Oh, also talking about PlayStation earlier, they have finally made their refund policy easier. Where it's previously near impossible to get a refund, they've managed to make things ever so slightly easier, but still slightly annoying. It has to be done on the PlayStation Store or the app, and it can't be done on the console itself, but you can now officially request a refund, which seems crazy to be something that they only just implemented in the year 2025. It still has to be within 14 days of purchase, and you can't have downloaded the game, but you can still get refunds on games that you haven't played within the last 14 days if you purchased it, but it's still not the most easy policy. Just, can we do the Valve thing, please, PlayStation? Steam have the best refund policy. Let's just do what they do. A game you won't be refunding is Clair Obscur, given how well that has been received. But did you know they might be making a sequel to that? Game director, and please excuse me when I pronounce this wrong, Guillaume Broach, has told Mr. Matty Plays that is a franchise name. Expedition 33 is one of the stories that we will tell in this franchise, and has hinted that there may be a follow-up series, which is very exciting given that Clair Obscur was so well received. We'll have to wait and see if anything comes out of this, and I'm sure we'll be waiting a long time given the game only launched a few months ago. But still, very exciting for all the fans of the game. Lastly, a little bit of Nintendo Switch 2 news now to close things out. Japan's National Diet Library, which has been in charge of preservation for a little while over in Japan, have decided that the cartridges used in the Switch 2 are not worthy of preservation. They previously had video game CDs and cartridges for preservation purposes, but according to Famitsu, the library does not consider the Switch 2's game keycards as proper physical media, and therefore will not be accepting it into their catalogue of games, which makes complete sense given these game key cartridges do not hold any actual data but just let the console know that you own a game, which is something I would say is quite scary for video game preservation and not something I hope continues across other platforms, given that preservation is very important and we like to make sure we own our games forever. Alongside the preservation issue, developers are saying that Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits are still very hard to come by, making developing games for the Nintendo Switch 2 very difficult, given the vast majority of developers can't get their hands on said kit. Apparently, Nintendo have been urging developers to make their games for the Switch 1 and rely on backwards compatibility to make the games work on Switch 2. We don't know why smaller dev teams aren't being given Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits or why they're so hard to come by, and it's a big shame considering how successful of a platform Nintendo Switch 2 could be for so many indie developers and AA developers as well. We'll have to see how this continues through the console's life cycle. Maybe things will get easier, or potentially this problem will continue through its entire life cycle. We'll have to see. But in the meantime, make sure you're checking out all kinds of indie games. There's lots of fantastic games on both the Nintendo Switch and PC as well. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's Indie Update. Make sure you check out all the cool content coming onto our channel this week. You've got the Dream Drop, you've got a list, you've got a potential 0 review video. Fingers crossed if we can get it all done in time. You've also got hidden indie gems and the like, so make sure you're checking all that stuff out next week and support our Patreon if you'd like to keep supporting indie visibility. That's all from me, and I'll see you very soon. Bye!